Chaz may have gotten on the temptation merry-go-round this week at the getaway house.
Well, in the word when Potiphar's wife had a Jones for Joseph,
Trying to
what
holler
did
at him.
yeah, what did he do? Run! Just watch Forrest Gump. He took off and he kept going.
And kept going. And kept going. The temptation everywhere.
Welcome to Cliff Alerts.
We're going to be talking about Food Network's reality-based TV series, Ready to Love, season number 9, episode number 9.
But before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe. Please send us your comments. Let us know what you think. And here we go.
That temptation is a beast, ain't it?
Run like hell is chasing him because it is.
Run away from it, not towards it.
We start off with the singles going to a weekend retreat.
Right.
And they're all arriving and they're figuring out which room they should take, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, arguing and a few skirmishes.
Tommy arrived on a boat
Mhm.
and he tells the group that this week the ladies are in the driver's seat and they have the power to eliminate.
Right. So make sure you explore your connections because on the second day there, you're going to make the decision about who's going home and who's staying.
Chaz in the room that Micah chose, he lay down on the bed and Micah lay down on the bed and he opened his hand and she put her hands in it. And just as she did that, Vanessa walked in
Yeah.
and she saw them on the bed and of course she excused herself quickly.
Because she was shook.
Yeah, and you can see some level of jealousy or maybe anxiety creeping in for her.
Mm-hmm.
She said that she wished he would make a decision because it's becoming a hard place for her to be.
Right.
And I'm wondering why she's getting so, stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
She just need to find another connection and just share her loveliness. I don't know why she attached herself just to one person, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so Chaz comes to find her
Mm-hmm.
and he said he knows that when she gets
Quiet.
and short,
She got a tube.
he got some problems.
Right. He got some issues in front of him. Right there in front of him.
Because
And he got to deal with it.
nothing like a woman who get quiet and short. All bets are off.
And then his eyes got real big, man. He's like, something is up.
He went to her and started to try to find out what was going on with her.
Yeah, he asked her, what's with the tube?
And she said he got to make a decision. They should not sleep in the same room.
Right.
And that she just had one person that she was checking for that would be him.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a number of different people. She believes that they have the strongest connection among the woman he may be checking for.
And initially, I would agree with that, but the process has gone on and evolved, and Taz has also discovered that he's got other connections as well.
And again, I don't see why she's been out of shape because this is what happens.
This is part of the process.
It's part of the process.
Part of the process that she has to maybe get accustomed to, maybe if she's not used to dating multiple people.
Right, exactly. And
in her real personal life.
It must be a difficult spot to be in for him
Yeah.
and for her seeing the man she has some sort of attachment to checking for the woman. And Chaz was really handsy. He was hugging and touching and
Feeling.
and rubbing and you know what I'm saying. The brother was deep in temptation city.
It was up on him.
And he even had mentioned that as a Christian man, he may be in a little bit of trouble right through here.
Temptation was strong.
So that's why he needed to, if he's in the word, he got to know about Joseph because Joseph showed everyone how it's done.
He did.
He took off and he ran. In fact, while Potiphar's wife was snatching him, she even snatched the clothes off of him. And they saw the naked man running. And the brothers who knew their thing know that that's Potiphar's wife again. Trust and believe this is not the first time Potiphar's wife did that stuff. So he got a choice to make. He got to take a page out of Joseph's playbook.
LeBron was playing a little bit of table tennis with Raika, getting to know her and trying to chat her up a little bit.
Yes, and Justin was hitting on
Sheena.
Bashina.
Uh-huh.
He was encouraging her to get in the water,
It was the
unless
same.
she has a waterproof wig on, which I don't think she did.
And an anchor underneath it. That's to the skull. Scalp.
See, you always want to talk mess. Why you
Hey,
gotta
look,
say it's an anchor?
no, because if the weave gets wet and it kind of
Lift off,
disconnect, yeah,
lift off.
it's gonna be floating. It's gonna rise to the surface, and she gonna be somewhere.
I can't do this with you, Jude.
And that would be a ready to remember moment. LaRon convenes a meeting amongst everybody at the retreat this weekend to lay out some ground rules just so that everybody's clear about how things should operate, right?
Right, and one of the things he sort of insisted upon is that there are no alliances,
Mhm.
because he referenced when Will and Alexis was there, they
Right.
had an alliance to get rid of Koshia and Maika,
Mhm.
and he didn't like that, and he exposed William's involvement in that alliance.
Sold all his tapes.
And William was upset, of course.
Oh,
He
he was
tried
stricken
to
back.
say that he wasn't a part of it, but he was. And Maya, who was listening to this, she thought that he may have been trifling in that moment.
Yeah, she started to feel a certain way about what she
Yeah,
heard.
I mean, no woman really wants their man embroiled in messy stuff.
Mhm.
That's not the way a woman wants to see her man
Right, right.
getting
Because
involved.
they don't like it when they do it amongst themselves, right?
Exactly.
Right. The other thing that LaRon said was, look, we all know that there are people here with multiple connections, so try not to get upset or salty by it.
And I think in that point he was referencing Chaz, and some other people, because Chaz had a lot of people on the roster. After Laurent put William on blast,
Mhm.
William was embarrassed, and he came to Maya's room to talk to her.
Probably thought that maybe LaRon tried to mess up his program, so he just wanted to make sure that everything was okay with her, right?
Yeah, but it was too late by then. She already checked him off by the time she got to the room,
Damage
and
was done.
he's sitting there trying to do damage control, but it she had already moved on.
Sure, sure.
So next up, we see Justin taking Maika jet ski. It crashed, unfortunately, and Maika got back on the jet ski because she was concerned about what was in the water, because the water looked a little funky, a little green, mossy green, or so who knows what else is in there.
Okay.
Laurent is checking for Maya. He would like a partner to share his space with.
Hmm.
And he and Maya started talking about the possibility of children and what kind of woman or man they would be attracted to. And both of them preferred not being with someone who had children.
Hmm.
And the conversation went on with Maya saying that she wanted two boys, and LaRon wanted two boys as well. So he was excited.
Hmm.
In fact, he said something funny.
He tried to put the Mac line on Maya by saying, "You know what? You and I could be dangerous." And he was saying it with vigor.
He was doing some heavy groundwork in her pathway, and she didn't look like she was opposed to what he was saying and doing. Reese had her moment with Chaz, and
Mhm.
as I said earlier, she had an interview with him,
Hmm.
and she wondered why he hadn't tried to reach out to her. She wanted to put her name down on that roster.
Right.
And instead of being wise and said, well, I have quite a few ladies I'm checking for already. You gonna be too much? Brother Man said, okay, I'll put you down on the list.
I'll schedule you for an interview.
And
Another one.
while she put out her hand for a handshake, that's why I know it was an interview.
Hmm.
He went in for a hug.
Hmm.
So baby boy is just in deep. The universe was trying to limit
Trying to
his
let him know.
options. Limit his options, so that's why he couldn't call her.
Right.
But he wasn't attentive to understanding that. So
Oh.
instead of going with the program as it is right now, he added to it which, as he indicated, he was already in the hole. So now water is coming in, and the brother
On
is,
water?
yeah, he taking on water at this point.
Man, in his confessionals, he did admit that he's struggling juggling all of these different connections simultaneously, and he's not accustomed to doing that at all.
So next up, we see Alonso and Patrice, and she's cooking, and he sort of clowned her a little bit. He said the food looked like it didn't have any seasoning on it.
And bland.
Vanessa had to sit down with Alonso. He is not into her, or vice versa, but the question she's asking has nothing to do with how they're feeling right now.
Right.
And I think they do have alliances still in existence based on the questions she was asking.
Despite what LaRon said from the
Despite
beginning.
what Laurent said.
Okay.
So the
Alonso?
question
Yeah.
she was asking
Mhm.
did not relate to a connection, but rather whether he should go or whether he could stay.
So, in a quick moment, Micah took the opportunity to show Justin what she's feeling about him, literally.
Micah is expressing herself in a way that Justin can understand because she wanted to put her hands on his rear end, and I think that will make an impression.
William had a chance to connect with Patrice for, I thought was a kind of transitional moment with Patrice and reveal like a vulnerable side of him to one of his connections, right?
Mhm.
And I thought he did so very well by, kind of sharing a little bit about, some family issues that he's having to
Yeah,
deal with right now.
he said that his father was having some health issues.
Yeah, yeah.
He took some time away from work,
Mhm.
and the weight of being there for his family was heavy on him.
No question about it.
And Patrice encouraged him to go to God with him
Mhm.
because God is the one to take that pressure off his back.
Yeah.
Feeling safe enough with Patrice.
That was good of him to do, and that was exactly what was instructed by Tommy to really explore the connections and whether or not it's legit or not. And when somebody reveals, a vulnerable side of them, that's something to pay attention to.
They decided to have a party, and everyone is dancing, and meanwhile Laurent is macking Maya.
He sure enough was.
He had his hand over her head by the refrigerator, and he had his eyes on her. And
Focus, wasn't he?
yeah,
He was focused.
he didn't lose focus at all.
Right.
And she was just trying to look up because it was so intense, and you could see she was melting under that gaze that he was giving her.
He threw it on her hard, didn't he?
As you said, that song that reminded you,
By Mark Morrison, Return of the Mac.
Return of the Mac.
Oh my gosh.
He had a skill set.
Yeah, he did.
He
It
was
was on full display.
and she didn't mind the attention either.
No,
She was melting.
in his hand. Chaz and Rashina they were starting some stuff, weren't they?
She was putting it on full display,
She laid it on him.
and he was both dehydrated and he was on a hunger strike. He
Mhm.
was in a dry and hungry place
Mhm.
because
And she
he
wanted to provide
started
nourishment.
right. He had access where he hasn't had access before, and she stuck a strawberry in her mouth, and he was trying to sort of, like, as you say, nourish himself. So the women are in the kitchen and they're talking because it's elimination day,
Yeah.
and we see Maika, Patrice,
hmm
Rashina,
hmm
and Vanessa, and they're
Mhm.
talking about Chaz.
Mhm.
And Maika said that she's on the roster,
hmm
and Patrice said, "Hey, don't forget about me. I put in my application and it was accepted."
It's being processed and accepted, right?
It was
It was
accepted.
accepted, okay.
So I'm on the roster as well. So we have, and Vanessa is looking at them and spoke up and said, "Well, she has always been on the roster,
Mhm.
but it gave the sister pause. She nervous at this
Oh,
point
she shook.
because four of them checking,
She shook for the same brother.
and she doesn't understand that Chaz is not her man.
Right. Yeah.
They just have a little
A connection,
a
a serious
connection.
connection, but
But
there's no commitment.
I wouldn't even classify it as a serious connection.
You don't think so?
No,
Well,
no.
huh? Okay,
This
all
is
right,
just
okay.
we like what we see.
And yeah,
You know what I mean?
but it's I think it's more than just the visuals. I think they're connected. They seem to have a similar kind of vibe to them, at least starting off. But Chaz has shown that other side of him that I think Vanessa didn't know about. So I think that Chaz can go. He's got a little bit more versatile in that regard.
Well, what I found troubling about the conversation in itself
Yeah.
is that they're putting the selection process of choosing one of them. A woman is the one who decides that. If she knows who she is and she values herself. Maika mentioned that she received a text from Chad,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, Koshina also mentioned she received a text from him as well. They implied that both of the texts probably was the same thing.
So in other
So
words, he's telling everybody, all the women there, to say the exact same thing. Oh boy, not a good move. Because what women gonna do when they get together. They gonna talk, and if you telling the same thing to different people, and these people are within the same proximity of one another, you're gonna get outed. Like this.
that
You're gonna get outed.
now after hearing that information,
Mhm.
the women now have to decide whether they stay locked in or whether they just move aside and what happens.
And you're not trying to tell me that Chaz at 40 something
Oh my
didn't know
God.
that.
There are a lot of books if he didn't have any game that he could have brought with him. You know what I'm saying?
He could have gone to
And he could have write down different texts or verses and send each of them and make a note of them in a book
in his logbook.
so he knows who he sent what
Yeah,
to.
in his logbook so he can keep his lies straight. That pressure is something.
So that's why I said he didn't have a strong connection with Vanessa
No, I get,
to be doing some funky funk like that.
I got you. I understand what you're saying.
Tommy comes through and he gathers the ladies so they can discuss. Tommy came through and, of course, to discuss who will be eliminated this week.
Right, and he began with the ladies in terms of who they were feeling and why.
And Maika said she was feeling Justin.
Yeah, literally.
Patrice was
Literally.
feeling both Alonzo and Chaz. Rashina, Chaz.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa was feeling Chaz, but
Mm-hmm.
she was turned off by his indecision to make a selection.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why.
Mm-hmm.
To me, what Vanessa is vibing is she is the kind of person who will smother a brother.
Sweat him, huh?
Yeah, hard.
So she need to pull up is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from her because she has never been in that space before
Mm-hmm.
with multiple women checking for the person you like.
Right, and her having to do the same thing,
Right. She
presumably
doesn't
in reverse.
understand that she can't attach herself so hard to the person.
Right, because that's not how you are successful in this process.
Exactly. Maika is not feeling Laron. Maya said that in her mind, William messed up when he was involved in that alliance with Will and Alexis.
Mhm.
So he is off her radar so far.
Yeah, mine's not also feeling Alonzo either.
Yes. Rashina, Alonzo,
Mhm.
Patrice, Laron,
Mhm.
Maika, Laron, and Maika is also not feeling William,
Mhm.
and Vanessa is not feeling William.
Mhm.
So Vanessa is the one chosen to give the news out, so she calls up Alonzo, William, and Laron. And she goes down the line with them as to why they were offered up for elimination.
Yeah, start with Alonzo first.
She said to Alonso, the women still view him as a goofball and maybe a clown.
Uh-huh.
And although she mentions that he has changed, she thinks that first impressions will stay.
And that's kind of like um what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of
Trifling?
rigid, unrealistic. I mean, it's not.
You
It's
got to make room for people to change.
exactly,
So
exactly
I'm not understanding what she's talking about.
right.
Like a subscriber last week talked about
Sure,
how they do the elimination
sure.
process. It sounds a little shallow.
Okay, okay. Yep, yeah. That's. I think that's a good word.
So when they go to LaRon,
Mm-hmm.
they're still talking about him being a party boy, and that image has not left him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure about that either.
I mean, it seems like they're stuck mentally in this like image of what they have, or based on what they learned initially, and not leaving open the possibility that that's only a small part of who he possibly is.
The man is gainfully employed
He works hard,
and
so
he
he
works for himself.
right, and he works hard,
So
so he plays hard.
that age, being single,
Mhm.
that's what you do on your free time.
Right, and
Just like Maya said that that's what she does. She works hard and she plays hard as
mhm.
well. You can't be mad at someone for that.
No, but it seems like they're holding it over his head.
The ridiculousness continues because when she gets to
William,
William, she said that his emotional vulnerability or some stuff like that is too much for the ladies to handle. Meanwhile, those are the same words that came out of her mouth as it related to William. So is she talking about the ladies or is she talking about herself?
don't
And
know, but it seemed kind of ridiculous from my end because beyond that, isn't vulnerability, and especially in a process like this, an accelerated process like this, gonna give women clarity about whether or not this potential guy in front of them is worth pursuing, because it's in so many cases, so often is the case that guys don't reveal that to women. Why is she seemingly complaining and using it as possible means for elimination?
it's the dumbest thing I've heard.
Oh,
Unfortunately, she was the messenger, so I'm looking at her
delivering the message.
because if you have any kind of awareness about you, you're not inclined to deliver dumb news.
Oh,
I'm
say it
sorry.
again. Say it again. What is it?
You know what I'm talking. You know when you hear it,
Yeah.
you really don't want to repeat what you just heard. When it dum da da dum dum dum, you hear that in your ear. And, nah, I'm gonna walk away from that.
Right.
But she decided to stand flat-footed and deliver that in the presence of
The group.
the group, because anyone who is looking for a relationship wants some sort of emotional attachment to the man they're dealing with, and vice versa. Men gotta feel safe enough to be vulnerable with you because that is a gift.
Yeah, so you don't hold that above their head and use that
Exactly, as a tool to
as
dismiss them.
right, right.
So that's
Or,
that's why it was dum diddy dum dum dum.
hmm
And I gotta look at her a little sideways
hmm
because she was the one who that nonsense came out of her mouth.
So, in other words, what you're saying is what she did may have potentially been a stupid move.
STOOPID.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. What you said.